So, freshly out of the ice caverns, we step into the Gate of the Ancients.
I can barely read this. It says, the center is the key.
Well, let's try to keep that in mind then. Once again, it's the Sharga background, and this time this level doesn't even have the excuse of having been built or dug out by the Shargas. They just couldn't stop using this background, I guess. Oh! The Gate of the Ancients is chock full of traps, but the confusing thing is that there's also a lot of fake-out traps around. You'll see those when we get around to them. First, let's extinguish this campfire using the Ice Bolts rune.
The darkness comes. This rune brings it to those that tamper. Be afraid to be alone in the dark.
And it has the Scare rune on it, which is a rune I already had. I'm afraid I'm not going to have a chance to show it in action, because there's not going to be any more enemies which it actually works on. In these piles of dirt, we find arrows, but a different kind of arrow. These go into the magical arrow quiver that the skeleton in the entrance to the Temple of Froggy dropped. Finally! And they are Black Slayer arrows, actually one of the best weapons in the entire game.
What was that?
I'm only going to find a few of these arrows. They are exceptionally rare. And that click plate did not actually do anything at all. It's just one of many fake outs in this level. Designed to keep you sort of paranoid. Same as the music for this level, which is also supposed to make you sort of nervous. Since I'm gonna have to do a lot of walking around in this level,
I can't read it.
I'm gonna cast a silence rune on my party and keep that refreshed whenever it runs out. Lets you listen to the music and makes it a lot less annoying than having to listen to the footsteps all the time. In this little alcove we find a broken runecaster and some red feathers. I guess these bones belong to a frog shaman who died here. And a ring of poison resistance. Don't really need it, but we'll bring it along anyway.
The scroll is intensely cold. There's some sort of magic running through it.
I have heard of such magics. They will come before the devastation.
Oh, that sounds promising. Let's have a read.
There's only this strange rune.
Here's a rune you simply have to try out to see what it does. It's not as spectacular as you might think. I'll get a chance to show off what it does in a later level. For now, let's keep moving silently through these halls. The Gate of the Ancients is a complex level. It consists of 2 floors, the Gate of the Ancients and the pits below it. And I'm gonna have to travel back and forth quite a few times to complete the level. Here's where Enigma's lore skill comes in handy.
There is great magic in the center of a location.
He's capable of actually reading a lot of these signs.
In the center, there is great magic waiting for those that are patient.
Though if you use the language rune, Drake can manage quite well by himself. But Enigma sometimes provides a different insight into things. So I'll be casting and removing the language rune a few times here, so you'll get both readings of the signs. Several people have commented on the fact that I almost never have to check my map in this game and seem to kind of know by instinct where I'm supposed to go. The thing is that I've played through this game so many times, I do almost know the maps by heart. But it does help that I extensively play each level before I actually start recording. Here's a click plate that actually does something. It starts this spear fence opening and closing. On the ground we find another very sharp dagger like the one we found in the very first room of the game. And this is a very interesting potion. The game calls this a bubbling blue potion, and the strategy guide for some reason calls it a life restoration potion. What it actually does is add 1 point to whichever stat you currently have lowest. And in my case that's agility, because for some reason that hasn't raised from its 3 stars since the 2nd level of the game. I think I ran into some kind of nasty bug in this playthrough, Maybe caused by my using more potions and mushrooms than I usually do, because it really doesn't make any sense that agility hasn't raised any more since then. Oh well, at least this potion can now help me balance Drake's stats out.
There stands a guardian at the gate. Beware him.
Beware the guardian at the gate.
So, careful of the guardian. Sounds menacing. A lot of long, featureless corridors in this level. And yet another door that won't open until I find the correct key. Not a very big fan of this level, and I think for an LP it's probably the worst level you could come across. Very little actually happening in it, lots of walking necessary. And of course I could use some fade-overs to cut that out, but then you would have absolutely no idea where I'm going. The door that I just tried doesn't actually open from this side, you can only open it from the other side. Same goes for this door. So I have to get on the other side of that first. A little bit more exploring, but we end at another dead end with some useless junk in it. Never mind. Let's turn around.
I still can't make out what it says.
Whenever Drake says this, or Enigma says, "I'm sorry Drake, it is impossible to read," that means that sign really is impossible to read. It's another way in which the designers of this level try to make you paranoid, and making you think you are missing out on something. There are several of these unreadable signs throughout the level, and I have to say they annoy me more than they make me paranoid. Stinger note in the background music to creep you out. Back north we go. Now let's turn left here because there is actually an illusionary wall. I miss when Farley would say, "Lo, there is something wrong with the north wall." Anyway, we have a mana circle here. Not bad. And a pit to drop down into. Well, no sense avoiding it. Oh, I could have used the Featherfall rune there, I guess. But there's a health potion at the bottom, and some bones of an unfortunate other guy who fell into this. Now we are actually in the pits, the floor below the Gate of the Ancients.
I am sorry, Drake. It is impossible to read.
So let's not bother with that then. There's several pits, obviously, in the Gate of the Ancients that lead into this level, and there's several ladders leading right out of them again.
I am sorry, Drake. It is impossible to read.
Basically, this level is one big game of snakes and ladders. But things are gonna get quite a bit more interesting than that, luckily. Here's a pressure plate with a hole above it. Nothing happens when you step onto it. You need a little bit more force to press this plate down. In other words, we're gonna have to drop down from above. And the end just leads to a dead end, so let's roll back and climb up that ladder we found earlier. Man, without the footsteps, this is almost relaxing. Here we are. New area. We have a pit over here. And we have a second pit over here. And a third pit in the final arm. This is kind of an important set of connections to the pits below. So you really have to work into your memory which pit drops into which area below. Here we dropped into the pressure plate I mentioned earlier, with enough force to actually press it down. And it opened up a new corridor, which leads into another mana circle. And what have we here? The next orb, Safrini's orb. And this one has a very unique power, which we're going to be using quite a lot in this level. But first let's check out these signs.
In the shadow realm, there lies a weapon.
Sounds good to me. Well, that doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense. Let's see if Drake can make more sense of that.
The scourge has been banished to the shadows.
Sounds sinister.
In the realm of shadows, the weapon is hidden.
Alright. Let's see, we have a hole in the ceiling here. Sofrini's orb, use it on your party, and you rise up. It also acts as a permanent featherfall rune when it's in your inventory. So from now on I will no longer take fall damage, which is also very welcome. I've already been around here, I think. Yeah, there's the sound of the spear fence. Alright. We're gonna head south for a bit. Let's see. A very long corridor over here. And this leads back towards the start of the level, so let's turn around and explore some of these side passages. Switch in the wall opens up a corridor behind me, and another switch opens up a corridor over here.
Transfer portal selection device. Enigma. Do you know what that means?
No, but the ancients had many wondrous engines of the magic.
Who the ancients actually are is never really explained. Whether they're ancient humans or some other race, I don't know. Anyway, pulling this lever has a fairly pointless effect. There's two very long corridors in this level, and they both have a mechanism which causes you to constantly get teleported one square back. What it effectively means is that it looks as if you're walking down the corridor, but in fact you're actually constantly getting teleported backwards, which makes it seem like you're walking down an infinite corridor. And pulling the lever switches that effect from one corridor to the next one. It's not really a necessary thing to do in order to complete the level. Don't want to go down that ladder. I'm going to drop down this hole. What have we here?
Those who are greedy will close all doors.
Oh goody. 3 doors. And if you don't open them in the correct order, then they will all lock and you will have to unlock them somewhere else. First, the middle one. This yields a key in the shape of a blue wolf. Well, there were 2 locked doors upstairs, so no doubt I'll have to use it up there. Second door on the right, which has another magical shield like the one I got in the Dwarven Fortress. And the third one just has another ring of poison resistance. Not very interesting. Basically, you really do want the key, and now all the doors are locked. I could fly up this hole, but there's also a switch in the wall which opens the corridor behind me. Unfortunately, the wall closes again behind you. Before we go up that ladder, let's have a look what's further down the corridor. Here we have another pair of switches, which opens compartments in the walls on both sides. And a switch which very oddly heals your entire party. Switch over here has an even weirder effect. It cures your party of poison and weakness. Even though we're at least 3 levels removed from the last level where you actually could get poisoned. And it would have worn off before you got here. The only reason I know it cures poison and weakness is because the strategy guide told me. Yeah, anyway, some bones at the end here. Nothing very interesting, and another hole I could potentially fly up. Let's have a look, see where that leads. Crushed bones, that might mean I've already been here. Yep, it's one of those 3 pits. Well, that leaves just one. This one. Alrighty. Nothing interesting here yet. And here we have the remains of another unfortunate adventurer. Nothing too interesting, but he did drop a nifty warhammer, which we saw the first time in the bonus video for the Dwarven Fortress. This is one of the best weapons in the game, certainly one of the best hammers, barring perhaps the stone hammer that was in the hands of the statue of Froggy. Let's just store it in case we come across another companion who's good at using hammers.
I am sorry, Drake. It is impossible to read.
Alright. Let's keep going.
Do not enter without... I'm sorry. I cannot read it.
Well, maybe the language rune will help Drake decipher the rest of it.
Do not pass this way unless you have the means to rise above your station.
Interesting. I certainly do have the means to rise above my station, the Orbis Safrini, but I'm not quite done in this level yet, and that's gonna lead me towards the exit. So let's head towards this door instead. And climb the ladder back up. Let's see, 2 pits to drop down. I'm gonna start with the left one. Hope you haven't tuned out just yet. Now what have we here? A silver statue of a duck. Quite a cartoony duck even. Well, that's very weird. But it reminds me of something. A certain rune I found in the fairy realm. A rune that quacked. Well, what do you do when you see a duck? You quack at it, of course. It disappears and opens up a secret passage. Okay, I'm not asking any questions. There's another Horn of Fear here, which I'll never use. A second magic arrow quiver in case you missed the first one. And a whole bunch of scrolls.
Languages rune. Target can read and understand written languages.
Well, if you missed this rune the first 2 or 3 times, that would certainly come in handy in this level.
Warrior from Stonekeep. Strong and true with silvery light. Keep the shadows at bay.
Well, this is a very vague hint towards the last level of the game. Let's just file that away for now.
What does this mean?
I honestly don't know. I guess it's a joke from the developers. I don't know if it's quoted from anything, but if I'd had to make sense of it, I guess it's supposed to say, see the itty bitty ducks? Them are not ducks. Oh, some are. See the itty bitty wings? Why, I'll be. Them are ducks. I can't believe I just said that.
Spear rune. Magical ranged attack. Spears are physical and can easily crush lightly defended creatures.
Oh, I think it's been quite a while since I've found an actual attack rune. We won't have a chance to show it off against an enemy for a while, so I'll inscribe it now and show how it looks in action. Not that spectacular, but useful against some enemies. Another stat-raising potion, which Drake is going to consume right away because I can certainly always use more agility. And all the way to the back, a unique ring, the Ring of Ducking. Yeah, this is a very special ring which apparently gives you a bigger chance of actually avoiding an enemy attack. Well, those were some pretty cool prizes. Let's continue on. Where are we now? Again, in a completely new area. Another hole here. It's kind of unfortunate that I didn't follow the corridor all the way to the west, because there's another pile of dirt there with another Black Slayer arrow in it. Since you only find a few of them in the entire game, it's kind of a shame to miss it. Here's another set of dangerous spear fences, but in the far corner here you find a switch which switches them both off. There we go. Much more quiet that way. Nothing in here. I want to follow this corridor to the end first. Another sign.
I am sorry, Drake. It is impossible to read.
Alright, and in the wall here we have a switch. This switch actually corresponds to some completely different place in this level, and I'll point that out when we get there. So just remember it for now. And here we come on the other side of one of those doors that wouldn't open earlier. Once I've opened it from this side, it's permanently open from both sides. Nothing here, so let's just step through this other door. Of course, we got the blue wolf key in the pits, so now we can unlock one of the two doors that have a lock up here. Let's head for the first one. There we go. Nothing much of interest in this corner, but I hear a crackling fire in the other one. Now, if I hadn't pressed that switch earlier, when I'd stepped towards this campfire, it would have shot some firebolts towards me. Pressing the switch turned that particular trap off. In the ashes, we find a red eagle key, which opens the other locked door on this level. Let's just have a look what else is in here. Some dirt which has already been rummaged through. And the remains of another unfortunate adventurer, possibly a dwarf. No need for this chainmail. I said I don't want it. And the scroll.
Those that follow in our footsteps heed these words. Beyond the portal lies the realm of shadows. No true life exists there. Continue with the utmost caution and care.
Oh, that's some sinister foreshadowing for the level that comes after this. Let's pick up that plain hammer as well. And continue on. Another dead end.
The center is hidden.
That sounds interesting, but let's see if Drake can get a different reading out of this.
Not all is as it seems in the center.
Okay. And if you remember, the very first sign we read in this level said the center is the key, but it's also hidden, apparently. Oh well, we'll figure that out later. This is sort of the point in this level where you might completely run out of ideas. And you're just stuck dropping down pits, climbing up ladders, trying to find something new. Obviously, I'm not going to torture you with any of that. On we go to the next step. I don't actually visit every little corridor or room in this level, just the ones that have something interesting in them or are necessary in order to complete the level. Obviously, this level can be a huge time waster otherwise. Back down one of the first pits we dropped into. And up the ladder at the end of it. This leads us back into the area with the 3 different pits. I want to take the middle one. There we go. If you still have any idea where I am right now, I'd be very impressed. Trying to get back to that area where the road split into 2 different pits. At the end there, once again, the sign that says I need means to rise above my station in order to proceed. No sense in doing that just yet, because I still have another key to find. Up this ladder again. Here's the 2 pits, and this time I'm gonna go down the right one, because I already went down the left one. And another ladder at the end. Which just leads into another pit. Very interesting, this. Where are we now? Have I already been here? Nope, not just yet. Some pressure plates. Guess we'll just step onto them.
What was that?
That was a pressure plate.
What was that?
Drake, what's wrong with your short-term memory?
What was that?
It says the traps are set.
Tell Scuzz something Scuzz don't know. Okay, don't look at Scuzz that way.
Oh, shit. Okay. Gotta say that the first time I played this level, that was pretty creepy actually. But here's the thing. It's completely meaningless. Whoever's laughing never shows himself. And there certainly are no traps set whatsoever. They're just another bunch of dud pressure plates. Well, I don't think these holes in the ceiling actually lead anywhere interesting. So let's head back and climb up the ladder we found earlier. Where are we now? Again in an area of the Gate of the Ancients that I have not yet visited. But it just leads back into familiar territory. Okay, I'm still not quite where I wanted to be. At this point, I think even I am starting to sort of lose my way here. But then I remember I still haven't used that eagle key, and there's one more door to unlock up here. So let's head over there. Yeah, there it is. Right. Starting to get close to being finished on this level. I hear another spear fence.
I am sorry, Drake. It is impossible to read.
Whoever thought that was a fun mechanism ought to be tossed into a spear fence. At the end of this corridor we find a scroll.
Stop track rune. Will stop a target in its tracks.
With a very literal rune, which does exactly what it says on the tin. This is another rune which I'm probably not going to get a chance to use. Weaker enemies it can sort of freeze in place. And on the ground we find a key with a head in the shape of an orb. Very interesting. And it's the last key we're going to need on this level. The switch on the wall here actually unlocks a trio of doors. If you remember, I found 3 doors which I had to open in a certain order in order to avoid them getting locked. One of them led to the blue wolf key. Had I accidentally locked those doors and pressing this key would have opened them. But since you need a blue wolf key to get to the red eagle key which leads you here, I think it might be possible to get permanently stuck in this level. But I'm really not in the mood to replay this level to find that out. Anyway, I'm heading towards the exit to this level. And you might have noticed that there have been absolutely 0 enemies in this entire level so far. Yeah, I didn't want to ruin it at the start of the video. But yeah, there's absolutely no enemies to fight in this entire level. The designers apparently thought it would be fun to have a level made up entirely of puzzles and traps and no enemies whatsoever just before you went to the final end game. I can't say I agree. It's really no fun getting a lot of new toys, weapons, and spells and having nothing to try them out on. Especially since the level after this presents you with some really tough enemies. It would have been nice to at least have gotten in a bit of practice. Especially since the ice caverns didn't really have any interesting enemies. And before that, the trolls in the fairy realm didn't pose much of a challenge. And before that, on the feeding grounds, it was just facing old enemies I'd seen before. Trying to get back to the point where that sign was that said I needed to rise above my station. Now that I have the final key, I can use Sofrini's orb in order to do just that. Now there's a disorienting thing when you rise up here. Walls on all sides of you, but one of them is illusionary. This is what the signs I found earlier meant when they said the center is hidden. Interesting door. And more pressure plates. I think I'm gonna take one of Skuzz's shiny rings, because suddenly my faith in this particular companion is rapidly dropping.
What was that?
Again, nothing. Oh, but there's some beautiful toys on the ground down here. Remember those signs warning against a guardian at the gate? Well, I guess this is what happened to him. But we can appropriate his fancy guardian plate armor, which is another set of magical armor, and also the best armor in the game. Obviously I'll keep the magical chainmail armor. I don't feel like putting it on Skuzz right now, but maybe I'll find someone else who likes to wear it. It even comes with a unique helmet. Sweet. Still weird seeing sleeveless plate armor though. Well, that should give me some good protection in the coming level.
I can feel great magical power coming from beyond this door.
We must be approaching the gate.
Skuzz wanna go back to Ice Shard again.
What?
Maybe Skuzz is a nice girl child.
If you must.
Skuzz don't want to be dead. Skuzz like it alive. Skuzz wish all best luck, but Skuzz stay on this side.
I understand. Farewell, Skuzz.
Skuzz, thank you all for stuffing all.
You traitor! Well, of course, in a normal game I would have stripped Skuzz of any fancy items he was carrying, but I really don't need the stone spear anymore. Certainly don't need the fairy clothes anymore, and nor the helmet. Ooh, and here's the skull-adorned portal to the next level. I wonder if the wall surrounding is left over from a texture that was supposed to actually be the background for this level. But remember the sign that said there is great magic in the center for those who are patient? Well, if you turn aside here, there's actually an illusionary wall again. And another one that leads behind the gate somehow. Because there's another door here, which leads to a mana circle with a bunch of super healing potions and something else. A silver rune staff, the best rune staff in the game. Hallelujah! This one says it comes with 99 charges, but that's just because the game is not actually capable of showing a greater number than that. In actuality, it has 120 charges, and you can slot 6 different runes on it, which I'm of course gonna do off camera. For now, let's just bring it along and open the gate to the Palace of Shadows. See you on the other side.